Hello, my name is Ashley Freeman, and my research proposal focuses on housing barriers experienced by formerly incarcerated adults during the community reintegration process. Returning to society after incarceration involves many challenges, but the most significant barrier individuals face is obtaining stable housing. Housing provides the foundation needed for individuals to access employment and healthcare and social support and other resources necessary for successful reentry. This study will explore the lived experiences of formerly incarcerated adults as they navigate housing challenges and identify ways that social work interventions and policies can better support successful reintegration. So, the introduction of this study begins with identifying housing instability as a significant social problem affecting formerly incarcerated individuals. After release, individuals face barriers that make obtaining safe and affordable housing difficult. The issue is significant because housing is closely connected to other areas of stability, which include employment, healthcare access, family relationships, and then reduced involvement with the criminal justice system. The purpose of this study is to explore how formerly incarcerated adults experience challenges during reintegration and better understand the barriers and supports that influence their ability to successfully transition back into their communities. So, the population selected for this research study is formerly incarcerated adults who are returning to their communities after release. This population often experiences barriers and they do continue long after their incarceration has ended. One of the most significant barriers is housing instability. Many landlords and housing programs have restrictions related to criminal records, and that can limit opportunities, even though individuals may be actively trying to rebuild their life. In addition, many individuals return to the community with limited financial resources, and as well as employment challenges and gaps in support systems. And so these barriers can make finding and maintaining stable housing really difficult, and can negatively impact their long-term reintegration. So the challenges related to housing often begin immediately after release. During the first days of weekly of I'm so sorry. During the first days and weeks of reintegration, individuals have to address that basic need of housing and employment and reconnecting with family and accessing healthcare and all those different resources. And if stable housing is not available, these challenges can become more difficult over time. Housing instability can contribute to unemployment and increased stress and causes difficulty maintaining relationships, which adds to the risk of homelessness and reincarceration. So, examining this timeline, the research can recognize that housing is not an isolated issue, but one that just affects the entire reintegration process. The purpose of this study is to understand the experiences of formerly incarcerated adults as they navigate housing challenges after release. While existing research has identified a lot of different barriers related to housing, there's still a need to better understand how individuals personally experience these challenges. So the research question asks, how do formerly incarcerated adults describe their experiences obtaining stable housing during community reintegration? This question aligns with a qualitative research approach because it focuses on understanding individuals' perspectives, experiences, and meaning that the participants give to their own reentry journeys. So, we have current research, and this research consistently demonstrates that stable housing does play an important role in successful community reintegration. The studies have found that individuals experiencing housing instability often face additional challenges related to the employment, financial stability, and maintaining those positive community connections. One study found that the housing insecurity negatively influenced individuals' expectations for successful reentry and their ability to remain free from future legal involvement. Another study highlighted the that criminal records alone can create a significant housing barrier, which just shows that the effect of the justice involvement can continue even after a system has been a sentence has been completed. And then another study showed that any identified other additional barriers, including the limited affordable housing, landlord discrimination, documentation requirements, and then restrictive housing policies that all relate to those different barriers. So, although research has established that housing is an important factor in successful reentry, gaps still exist. So much of the existing research focuses on identifying the barriers, but provides less information about which specific housing interventions create the strongest long-term outcomes. There's also limited research examining how housing programs impact diverse populations, which may include women, individuals living in rural areas, and then individuals with different life experiences and cultural backgrounds. So, additional qualitative research is needed because understanding personal experiences can help provide some insight into how current systems can be improved and how services can better meet individuals' needs. So the issue connects to all three levels of social work practice. The micro level, formerly incarcerated individuals experience personal challenges such as finding housing, obtaining employment, and managing the emotional impacts of incarceration, which can also bleed into rebuilding and maintaining healthy relationships. At the meso level, community organizations, reentry programs, social services agencies, and housing providers influence whether individuals can access necessary resources and support. And then on the macro level, larger policies and systems create barriers and opportunities, and housing regulations, criminal background policies, and the availability of affordable housing can also influence whether or not a successful reintegration is possible. The study I am doing is guided by the ecological systems theory, which explains that individuals are influenced by different environments and systems that they are surrounded by. So this theory is appropriate because housing instability after incarceration is not affected by one single factor, but rather it is a result of interactions between individuals and larger systems, which include like families, communities, organizations, and policies. So this framework will guide both the research methodology and interpretation of findings by helping identify how different systems can either support or create barriers for a successful integration. The study is going to use a qualitative phenomenological research design. This approach was selected because the purpose of the study is to understand the lived experiences of formerly incarcerated individuals rather than measure statistical relationships. So participants will be able to share their experiences obtaining housing and interacting with support services and navigating barriers after their release. And the phenomenological approach allows us as researchers to identify common experiences and themes among participants while recognizing that the individual's reentry journey may be and will be unique. So, data collected from the participant interviews will be analyzed using a thematic analysis. So, this process involves reviewing interview responses and then identifying repeated ideas and organizing those ideas into broader themes. I found NVivo, which is a software that is used to organize, code, and manage qualitative data. So, this software helps researchers identify patterns through across participant responses while maintaining organization through the analysis process. So the findings after that will then be interpreted using the ecological systems theory to understand how different environmental factors can influence housing experiences. Culture, diversity, and oppression are important to consider as well when we're examining housing instability after incarceration. Um, Individuals may experience different barriers based on those kinds of factors, such as race, gender, ethnicity, disability status, sexual orientation, um, things of that sort. And so these identities can influence access to resources and exposure to discrimination. So, for example, systematic inequalities may create additional barriers for certain groups when seeking out housing or employment. So, social work approach recognizes that these are differences and ensures that an intervention is culturally responsive and equitable and focuses on the individual's unique experiences and needs. So, our ethical considerations are especially important when conducting research with individuals who have experienced incarceration and housing instability. The participants will most likely discuss sensitive experiences, so protecting their confidentiality and making sure they're emotionally safe is a priority. The participants will be provided informed consent and understand that the participation is voluntary, so they have the ability to withdraw from the system at any time. And then the research aligns with the NASW Code of Ethics through the values of dignity, worth of person, social justice, and respect for self-determination. The research has potential implications for both social work practice and policy development. Findings can help social workers better understand the barriers individuals face and develop more effective housing focused interventions. At the policy level, researchers may support changes related to housing discrimination, criminal background restrictions, and then also um, increased access to affordable housing resources. So, addressing these systemic barriers can improve reintegration and contribute to reducing homelessness and recidivism as well. Based on current research, recommendations include expanding supportive housing programs, increasing collaborations between correctional systems and community organizations, and improving access to case management and social services. The research also contributes to understanding the human behavior by examining individuals' responses to environmental changes and their available supports during this major transitional period. That's why we use the ecological systems theory because it highlights that behavior and how it's shaped by interactions between individuals and their environments. So, by understanding these reactions, social workers can develop interventions that will address the individual's needs and then also, in addition to that, address the larger systemic barriers. And that's all I have. There's my references. Have a great day.